Welcome to the paper on pre-modern Japanese literature. This paper is broadly divided into three parts. Period-wise, it is ancient period, medieval, and early modern period. Let's look at the objectives of this paper. Broadly speaking, our aim is to understand how the poetic creation in the mythological age took place and how it was influenced by the Chinese script and literature. How the creation of nation state of Yamato gave impetus to the development of Japanese literature, especially the written literature. How the advent of Buddhism influenced literary creations in the form of Kanyaku-butten, which means the Chinese translations of Buddhist scriptures. Next, under the influence of Buddhism, how the Japanese prose flourished in various forms of fiction, poetic diaries, miscellaneous essays, entertaining tales of humor and wit, as well as historical narratives and tragic tales of warfare. Ultimately, it heads towards the modernity with an impressive lucidity to adapt to the diverse changes in the Meiji period. Now look at the content. Content-wise, this course is divided into 8 parts, or I would call 8 units. Unit 1, this part deals with the chronology of ancient period extended up to Middle Ages in order to present an overview of the overall scheme. Next it deals with the cultural aspects of ancient period and throw further light on the various aspects and keywords of ancient culture. Let's look at Unit 2. In Unit 2, throw light on the ancient most work of Kojiki and Fudoki. It starts with the explanations about Kojiki, which is also called the records of ancient matters in English, and deals with the preface of this Japanese epic. Then some of the legends presented in this work are also presented, and further we elaborate on to the classical work named Fudoki, which deals with the provincial records basically of geography and to some extent of the legends and tales of each province. So here we learn about some of the legends associated with provinces. In Unit 3, we move on to the ancient Japanese poetry. Here, with the first largest collection of Japanese poetry called Manyoshu, we learn about its poets and move on to the first Japanese poetry collection, Kokinwakashu, in vernacular Khanna script. the emphasis on the preface of Kokin Wakasho and deals with how the Japanese poetry called waka developed and flourished. Next, Unit 4 deals with the fiction called monogatari in Japanese. It gives us a classification of the types of fiction which prevailed in Heian period and further elaborate on to give an outline of the famous epic, or rather the famous novel called Genji Monogatari. We move on to the next unit, which introduces the two new genres of Japanese literature, especially the prose literature, which had a long-lasting impact on the Japanese literature to give its uniqueness. And these are the poetic diaries and miscellaneous essays. In Unit 6, we study about the how from aristocracy the warrior class came to rule the society and politics, and the narratives of war literature called Gunki Monogatari are discussed. Also, a special style of entertaining tales called Otogizoshi, which were popular during the subsequent Muromachi period, the period of Ashikaga shoguns, and how it culminated into the early modern period, which is called Kinsei. Unit 7, we learn about the works of Tokugawa period from Genroku period onwards, about the society, about the Gesaku or the popular literature, and finally under this course we will study about the theme which are based on, or rather influenced by, Buddhism in Japanese literature with reference to Buddhist scriptures, as I mentioned earlier, as Kanyaku Butten and Setsuwa, the discourse narratives. After studying this course, the learners will have a comprehensive understanding of the key terms and vocabulary associated with pre-modern Japanese literature. How you will also understand that how there has been a consistent development in both poetry and prose since the ancient times, with the poetic meters of 5757 of Kojiki lasting even till date, and also a unique blend of poetry and prose